Greetings, ladies and gentlemen of the internet, Jan Michael here. It's November. That means it's time for me to be a little bit more serious with my Oscar predictions, seeing as we're getting so close to the festivities now. So yes, no more surprise picks, no more outrageous guesses that most likely aren't gonna lead to a nomination. No, I'm just fucking with you guys. You know me. You know I like to take wild swings because otherwise this video is gonna be just like everybody else's, and I don't want it to be. And sometimes I surprise myself. I mean, just how many people got America Ferrera last year? Come on, just how many people? So those are the moments that I become most proud of, and I'm going to continue that trend by doing some picks that if the comments aren't going, what the fuck are you talking about, then I know I'm not doing my job right. So let's get started, guys. These are my Oscar predictions for November of 2024. I feel we're starting to get a good picture about what the best picture lineup is going to look like, to the point that I'm actually feeling pretty confident in 8 of these picks, with a potential 9th one coming by the time, heck, this video even releases. And so let's go ahead and talk about what I feel very confident in as of right now. The Brutalist, I mean, that's no duh, right? That's probably going to be your big winner. And if not that one, then number 2, Anora. I mean, that's either your number 1 or number 2, or flip those around and you got it, right? So yeah, apart from those two, Sing Sing, I do think is in the conversation. A lot of people really dismissing it. And granted, I understand why. I think the way they released the film was fucking stupid, but I think as the screeners go out to people, it's not going to ultimately matter, because as people watch it closer to when they gotta vote, it's going to be fresh in their minds. And some people, I don't know really how it works, but I can imagine some of these voters maybe not even going out to the movie theaters to see these things. They're like, well, I'm just going to get screeners, so I'm just going to wait for those. And that's really where a flux of the nominations could well come into play. So I'm not counting Sing Sing out. Yes, it should have been marketed better. It should have gotten out to the general public more, but they're not the ones voting. So I ultimately don't think it matters. It's a strong film. I think it's definitely getting in. Conclave, I mean, I think that one's already proven itself. People are loving Conclave. I got to see it. Yes, it is fantastic. Most definitely one of my favorite movies of the year. I love film with strong dialogue, which that one most definitely has. So I think it's definitely going to be included in the Best Picture lineup. Emilia Perez I haven't seen yet, but just based on all the buzz that I've been hearing, I do think it's going to be getting in. There are those naysayers. Actually, there's almost like a group of people that are shouting out saying, no, it's not that good. Like, it's nowhere near the spectacle that they say it is. But I don't think it's ultimately going to matter. I think too many people who love that film really love it. And when you have a passionate fan base, I think you're really going to get a push for that to rise above what maybe it normally would. So I think Emilia Perez is easily in. I'm not going to be dismissing it at all. Dune Part 2, I think, is in. It's definitely no longer that front-running contenders. I don't even think it's in the top 5, but it's still most likely going to get in, and it's going to get a ton of tech category nominations as well. So I think that's just an easy in. Now, the ones that I'm not 100% confident in, but I feel very strongly about, first and foremost, Nickel Boys. I think this is just that type of movie that is right up the Academy's alley. They love to nominate that pretentious film every single year for Best Picture. Nickel Boys just seems like the perfect fit. It's gonna have those champions in the critics circles, and while that doesn't always translate to Oscar glory, I think there's just no way that the Academy can dismiss the film outright. So I do think the Nickel Boys is in. I'm feeling more confident in it than not in it, if you will. So there's that for you. Same with The Real Pain. The Real Pain definitely been shooting back up there. I've already been excited to see it, but especially because it's getting a resurgence recently, even more so. And it's just about to hit theaters as of the time of this recording, so by the time you watch this, I may have already seen it. So maybe even more so by then. But I'm just feeling so strong in this entire lineup, and especially with all the other films that have come out and just not impressed all that much. I'm thinking about Blitz, which I was never a huge believer in. I'm thinking about Gladiator 2, which is getting kind of mixed results. There's some people that do like it, but I think enough people are going, it's fine, it's whatever. to really not make it a Best Picture contender. So it's just kind of how it is. Last month I was saying maybe September 5th could potentially get into it. I've been hearing that buzzword, that it's amazing, that it definitely has the potential to win Best Picture, but I think people have been overhyping it to the point that now it's just kind of, you go in with this ginormous expectation, and even though it's good, it just doesn't live up to it, so people are like, well, it's not that great. So I think this is just a good example of why you shouldn't overhype something. I liked the rumblings that made me think, oh, maybe it could get in, but I think the rumblings have gone on too loud now that people are almost pushing back against it. Anyways, I do think Wicked has the road laid out in front of it for it to get a Best Picture nomination. Early buzzword is that it is fantastic. Some people even said it's a masterpiece. There's that word that I'm always cautious about. We'll see. I was just hyped up last month for September 5th, and that ultimately ended up not being that great in the sense of it's going to get a bunch of nominations. Does Wicked follow suit? Don't know, but it's just about to come out. So again, by the time this video releases, we most likely will get a clear picture of what that film's going to be about. But I think I would sit very comfortably at number 9 there. I don't believe it'll be a top 5 film. There's just too many strong films, but I do think it could potentially squeeze in, especially, as I said, there's just been a lot of disappointment recently in terms of big releases that we expected to be amazing, or at least other people did. I didn't have hope in, but they ultimately didn't prove themselves worthy. So that's what I got there. Now, you know, as I said, I want to take wild swings. And this entire time I was always telling myself, there's no way The Substance is gonna get into Best Picture. It has a real uphill climb to it. It's a horror film. It's a weird horror film, mind you. Who's really gonna go for it? But then I thought to myself, it has a passionate fan base. Just kind of like what I said with Emilia Perez. It has a passionate fan base. The critics are liking it. The audiences are liking it. The audience that I went to go see it with was eating it up. I think that there's enough push behind it to really get it in. Granted, it's not a guarantee. That's why I don't feel strongly about this one, at least nowhere near as strong as the other ones. But I gotta take those wild swings. And I think how amazing it would be if this film did get in. And it could get a couple of other nominations along with Best Picture, which would come in a really nice bundle. So yes, I'm gonna include it just because there's really nothing else I want to include in my top 10. I was looking at some of the other potentials and I'm just like, I didn't feel anything for those. So I'd rather put something in here that I'm passionate about, that I would love to see, and I'd rather be right than get it wrong, but get it wrong by not predicting it and it does get in. So I want to be on its side is ultimately what I'm saying here. So yeah, I'm going to include it. I do think this is a really nice 10 right here. I actually feel most confident in this than I have any other time, which makes sense. We're getting closer to the season, but who knows? Are we have any more surprises left? We do still have a complete unknown that hasn't released yet, but again, the early buzzword on that one is that it's okay. I know that they're doing reshoots and things of that nature. Is it gonna be enough? And even if it isn't really, you do have Baz Luhrmann's other films like Elvis, which was whatever as well, but it still got in, so you could use those arguments for why a complete unknown could still get in as well. So I don't think the conversation's over by any means. I'm just saying this looks like a very nice top 10, and I think I'd be very happy with this being the lineup, but we'll see what happens within the next few months. I'm very excited. I think we're finally starting to get that clear picture, and I think this is a very good indicator of what's coming up. So that's what I got for you. Moving on. I might have done something stupid for director this month, which I may correct next month. But again, wild swings, wild swings. Let's go with that theme for this video, shall we? So, of course, Brady Corbett for The Brutalist. I think that is most likely going to happen. Sean Baker for Anora. And then here's where I would normally have Denis Villeneuve for Dune Part 2. I don't know if Denis is going to get in anymore for Dune. I thought he had a narrative to him, like he's been snubbed so many times before. he got snubbed for the first Dune. Second Dune's even stronger than the first one, people really liking it. So the argument's being made, is he really gonna get snubbed again? I think there's just that, if we have the rumblings, I can only imagine how Hollywood is pushing him, going, come on guys, you're really gonna do this to him again, making people feel bad so they vote for him. And yes, I do want to see him get in, but I don't trust Hollywood that much, and I definitely don't trust the Oscars that much either. So I could see him being snubbed again, especially because I think director's actually looking pretty goddamn stacked, and there's so many other picks that I'm kind of feeling stronger on. So Ramel Ross for the Nickel Boys, I know this could be the one that you just push out, you put Denis in there, and I'm not gonna deny that that's not a possibility, because it most likely could happen. But I also think the Oscars want to award those auteur film directors, kind of like last year with The Zone of Interest. So I can see Ramel getting in. I actually feel kind of strongly about him getting in too. So I can't quite push him out of there. Jacques Audiard for Emilia Perez. You always have an international director. Look back at the last, what, 6-7 years? Even when we didn't get an international film in Best Picture, we got an international director. So I think director more than picture has a very good, strong record of them voting somebody in there. So I can't dismiss this one. It's just the stats are too good in that sense for me to push Jacques out. And then you have Coraline Farge for The Substance. Yes, okay. This is the one that you could probably just push out and put Denis in. In fact, it makes sense to do so. But again, I gotta take those wild swings. And we don't have a female director leading the pack again. That is so shameful. You know that is going to be a campaign of sorts for a lot of the female directors who can't even campaign. But as I said, The Substance does have this passionate fan base. I think people will be very excited to see her get in. So could it happen? I think so. I think there is a chance she could get in. Granted, I don't think it's a very high chance. Again, you got The Substance, it's a horror film, it's a weird horror film, so I may be grasping at straws, but I gotta hold on to hope for these categories. I want to see interesting picks happen. And yeah, that means I'd have to shun Denis here, but he's got another Dune movie coming, and who knows, maybe that one's even better than this one, and that could really be the one to really push him over the edge. It's tough. I think whatever you do, you're going to be leaving somebody out that is worthy of the nomination. So, I mean, it's just kind of like pick your poison here. But again, I think this would be a very nice lineup. Something I think we definitely have a picture coming into focus here. So that's all I got for this one. Actress really hasn't changed much. In fact, it's pretty much the exact same as last month. Mikey Madison for Nora, of course. Carla Sofia Gascon for Emilia Perez, of course. Angelina Jolie for Marie, of course. Saoirse Ronan for The Outrun. This is the one where you could probably maybe push out The Outrun. If it does get anything, it's just going to be for Saoirse. But with Blitz not really doing so hot, though she is good in the film from what I understand, maybe they want to honor her, especially because she gives two really good performances. The Outrun, I hear, is the better performance. So I don't know. I think there's too many roads in front of us right now to get a clear picture. It's just a guessing game as of right now. But I think The Outrun is the better of the two to potentially get in. So that's just what I'm thinking for now. And then, yeah, as I said, I'm going to continue pushing The Substance here. So Demi Moore for The Substance. A lot of people saying she's worthy. She gives a career best. We've had instances of this happening in horror films before. I mean, look at Hereditary. So yeah, you just never quite sure. And that's honestly the argument that I would use against it. But I don't want to do that. I don't want to use that same argument. I think sometimes you just got to break these trends. It's time for horror to make more of an appearance at the Oscars. So I'm betting my chips here on Demi, and we'll see what happens. The more I think about Best Actor, the more I think this is not a big category this year. In fact, I'm actually kind of underwhelmed by a lot of the backup choices. The ones that would be like 6, 7, 8. In fact, I just don't feel really passionate about any of those. So ultimately, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's Adrian Brody's to lose. I don't think he's going to. I mean, that performance has been like touted as amazing, the best of the year, the best of his career. So there are some arguments saying, well, he's won in the past, so maybe people aren't ready to reward him again. But I think enough time has passed that most people are definitely ready to reward him again. I really do think it might be a done deal. I'm predicting a sweep. I hope I'm wrong in the sense of the sweep itself, just because I like to see competition. But if the performance is as good as everybody is saying it is, then yeah, why wouldn't we want to award him the award, if you will? Coleman Domingo for Sing Sing, good performance. Most definitely not going to win against Adrian, so there's that. Ray Fiennes for Conclave, again, great performance. Probably not going to win against Adrian, so there's that. Timothy Chalamet for Complete Unknown. I am so surprised so many people are feeling so strongly about him not just getting in, but potentially being the runner-up here. Like, some people are saying, well, he could take the award at the Globes, or he could take it at SAG, so on and so forth. And I'm thinking to myself, why? Why do we think that? I get it. The history of it, it's a biopic. These type of performances usually go on to win. So I get there's a history there. But as a lone kind of, if you take that as a, by itself, if you will, if you're just dissecting this nomination, I just don't think it makes much sense. First and foremost, does he disguise himself as this person? I don't see it. Don't get me wrong. And I like the trailer, but do I see Timothy as Bob Dylan? And I really don't. I just see Timothy, so I can't quite go that far. Is the early buzzword behind him that he's amazing, he's fantastic, he's definitely going to win? And again, I haven't heard that. In fact, I've heard more about Edward Norton than I have about Timothy. So again, I just don't see what about this lone nomination. People are going, oh yeah, it's like second in line. He could potentially win at some of the awards categories. He could be a serious contender, and I just don't see it. Maybe I'm wrong, or who knows, maybe I'm proven wrong, or something happens where he does start to build momentum and he does get into second place. But as of right now, honestly, if it weren't for the week, like 6th, 7th, or 8th, if you will, I honestly probably wouldn't even like include him in my top 5. That's just me. It's just what I'm seeing here. But I get it. If you want to use history, if you want to use statistics, I just did that with the director's circle, so I understand. But that's what I got for you there. And then number 5, I have Sebastian Stan for The Apprentice. Now, here's the thing. I've heard the argument that because the elections went the way they did, most people are not going to want to nominate Sebastian, who plays Donald Trump. People are sick and tired of hearing about this person. And my thought process, honestly, was the complete opposite of most people, because you elect this buffoon, if you will, this criminal, this horrendous person. And yes, you're kind of sick and tired of hearing about him, but it's almost like you wanting to show them this film and going, look, this is who you put into office, you fools, right? It's almost like you kind of have that passion behind it where you want to do this thing. And I don't know, maybe that's just not the train of thought. Maybe it is like, oh, I'm just so sick of this, I don't want to hear about this anymore. I kind of have the opposite mindset where I'm like, this should really open the conversation up a little bit more. But I don't know, maybe I'm in the minority on that one. I don't know. The other thought process I think could be legit is that people in Hollywood go, well, we don't want the ire of Donald. We don't want him to look at us. And as dictator-y as he's probably going to be this time around, you know he's going to be lashing out at many different companies, many different industries. So maybe the Academy's like, no, let's just not do that right now. So maybe that also happens. I think a very good telltale sign of what comes next is, where does Sebastian Stan get nominated next? Does he get into the Globes? Like, if he misses Globes altogether, completely right. Hollywood's not going to touch it anymore. Maybe people are sick of it, or maybe it's the other option. But this is really just a waiting game right now. I do think he could potentially still get in. I'm not going to use the argument that because of how the election went, people don't want to talk about this anymore. I think the the passion, the anger, the wanting to talk about it is too strong. But again, I might be in the minority there. So that's what I got for you guys. It's who knew that politics could play such a big role in Oscar nominations? Go fig. Supporting actress, completely the same. I guess the only real big thing to talk about is I included Ariana Grande for Wicked. If Wicked ends up being big, I do think it's got to come along with a performance. I think lead actress is too stacked to include Cynthia, so I'm going to go Ariana for supporting. It's not a done deal by any means, but I gotta throw Wicked some stuff here and there, especially if it's the masterpiece that people are saying it is, but we'll wait and see. Everybody else is just the same. I guess Anjanou Ellis-Taylor isn't a guaranteed lock. That could end up missing, but I don't know. I'm not feeling too confident in a lot of the other picks to really knock her off. So yeah, this is just gonna stay the way it is, and let's move on. Recent reviews coming out have kind of switched my opinion on the 4th and 5th spot. But just to kind of clarify here, Clarence Macklin, Guy Pearce, Kieran Culkin, locks. If they don't get in, that'd be a huge surprise. I think Edward Norton could very well get in for a Complete Unknown. First, if a Complete Unknown does get into Best Picture, I think Edward just comes along with the package. You got Tim, you got Ed, you're good there. But even if a Complete Unknown doesn't get in, I think Edward has a good shot of getting in because everything I hear about that movie has singled him out for being the best performance. Like, he's great. He steals the show. So I am convinced that he's probably going to be the biggest buzzwordy thing about the film in terms of Oscar nominations, next, in terms of just any nominations. But we'll see. We'll see on that one. But again, if it gets into Best Picture, I think Edward's it's going to get in. Denzel Washington for Gladiator 2, the reviews for that one have just started trickling out, and yeah, everybody's been saying he's great. He's always kind of been in my number 5 spot, just because I've had the surprise picks, like obviously you've never seen him. Even once, I thought, well, maybe if that movie just completely crashes and burns, he just doesn't come along with it, but even though the reviews have been fine, he is the thing that most people are saying is the standout. Could potentially win. I don't know. I think that might just be early hype. But yeah, it's enough for me to really include him in my top 5 now and cement him in my top 5. Honestly, I probably should just put him at number 4. I think Edward Norton probably is more likely to not get in than Denzel to not get in. So I don't know. There's that. That you can see. I've been playing around with it a little bit more. Still got a couple of months left. We'll see what the critics start to do. And yeah, that's all I got here. Original screenplay, I'm not feeling too confident in. I mean, top 3, yes, of course. But 4 and 5 are the ones where I'm like, well, I guess you could probably substitute that for other works. I mean, Saturday Night hasn't been doing as great as a lot of people were hoping it would. But the people who do really like it do really like it. So it could just be a lone screenplay nomination. I can't say that I'm dismissing it fully here because I do think it has that shot. September 5th, because it has all eyes on it now and a lot of people are now kind of, going, yeah, it's not that amazing. Maybe they just don't vote for it because of that reason. And so I'm not feeling too confident there, even though, again, I think it probably could have gotten in if it weren't for that overhype now. So while I do think these two have the potential to get in, I think the blocks have been set that they could easily topple over. Then there's things like The Substance. Should I include that? I mean, it's going into Best Picture for me, Best Director, Actress. So shouldn't I include it in Screenplay as well? And to be honest, that film to me is more of a show, don't tell. And so while the screenplay is good in the sense of setting things up, I think this is a category where when you hear screenplay, where the voters hear screenplay, they want to hear quippy, quirky dialogue, or smart dialogue, or commentary dialogue, something there that really sticks with them. And I don't think The Substance does that. It's more of a visual thing where what you see sticks with you, not what they say. So that's just my reading on it, but you never know. You never know. Again, I'm just not feeling too confident. If those blocks fall over, it maybe does make room for The Substance, some of these other picks. So there you go. For adapted screenplay, this one's, I think, almost a done deal. Conclave, Sing Sing. Yes, I do think Sing Sing is going to get in. In fact, I was even playing with the possibility of it winning, but after seeing Conclave, I'm like, nah. That film's definitely winning that adapted screenplay. The dialogue is so goddamn good, and that movie is like majority dialogue. So that's what I mean by the voters picking the films that do have the sharp dialogue, the commentary dialogue, what have you. So there you go. Nickel Boys, I think, could very well get in. It could be saying something important that the Academy loves to hear. So I'm feeling pretty good about it. Not 100% confident, but feeling pretty good. Same with Dune Part 2. I do think that one gets in, just the first one did. People liking the second one a lot more, so I think it comes along with the package there. And then Emilia Perez, again, I just think has such a passionate family, not a fashionist fan base, a passionate fan base that I think it comes along with it. So yeah, that's kind of what I got here. Maybe we'll get a surprise here. I don't know. I gotta think about this one a little bit more, but for now, I think this is a pretty good locked 5. And yeah, that's all I got there. Nothing's really changed for film editing here. And now you have a clear picture of my 5, and really not much really to talk about here. I just think Emilia Perez gets in because with singing and dancing, you have all these cuts, things of that nature. I guess in that sense, I probably should think about putting Wicked in here as well. And yeah, maybe I gotta wait and see how the movie really does. I gotta see the full reviews. I gotta watch the film before I really start to consider it, because honestly, I think there's just a lot of other really good choices here. So yeah, film editing just could be a very stacked category this year. Cinematography, again, not really much has changed. Again, my number 5 is Emilia Perez. I do think that's like right there, like at the tail end of the top 5 in terms of how people are going to be ranking these, if you will. So you're just going to see her kind of take my 5th spot in a lot of these categories. Though I do constantly want to say The Girl with the Needle. This is like on nobody's radar. I don't see anybody predicting this in cinematography. And guys, black and white, doesn't matter if it's a low nomination. We've seen this happen before. At least give it some consideration. I'm not saying it's a done deal, but I've seen it happen to the point that I think it could be that surprise one that most people end up missing on the predictions ballot just because it was just nowhere registered in their mind. So who knows? Maybe I'll just look foolish in a few months, but I'm going to continue including it. Costume design, Wicked, I think this is definitely going to happen. I mean, look at so many people are now doing like the fashion design off of it. So I just think this one is a very easy kind of pathway to victory for it. The rest are pretty much the rest. I did include Furiosa. Maybe that's kind of a stretch. I know the film's kind of been long forgotten about by now, but I think that film at least should get a couple of tags here and there. Maybe you could squeeze into that 5th spot. Because, man, I think if it doesn't even get any nominations, I get like that series is already tanked, but who knows? Maybe Warner Brothers goes, okay, well, you know what? We did at least get a couple of nominations, so maybe we can do something more with it. But if it gets nothing at all, then I can see them saying, well, it doesn't even get, like, doesn't make the money, doesn't even get the nominations. What the fuck are we doing these movies for? And then, yeah, who knows when we'll ever see another one again. So get some nominations, please. Makeup and hairstyling really hasn't changed. I have the top 4, and then, yeah, I put Beetlejuice back in there. I'm not confident it's gonna get in, to be completely honest, but I'm also not feeling too confident about a lot of the other picks, so maybe it just gets in by process of elimination. Who knows? But that's what I got there. I think the other 4, though, are pretty good locks. Again, unless Wicked just isn't as good as people are hyping it up to be. And there's that for you. Production design. Again, Dune, Wicked, The Brutalist. I probably should move Brutalist up a little bit more. I mean, it's a film about architecture, so there you go. Gladiator, Conclave I included on there. Although Conclave, it does have good production design, but is it the standout thing of the film? And I've really been thinking about this, and I think a lot of it is more on the costumes, on the scenery, if you will, the cinematography type deal. I don't know about production so much, or if that's what the first thing people are going to think about when watching that movie is. But again, maybe that movie's just so beloved, it gets in regardless of it. We'll see. That's the only one I'm not too confident in right now. All right, moving on. All right, had to brace myself for this one. Animated feature film. I said this last month, but until the Lord of the Rings anime movie comes out and proves that it's not a animated film contender, I'm going to include that as my number 1. Again, wild swings. I gotta go for it. And I'm so much looking forward to it. I think it has the potential to be this big juggernaut thing that blows everybody away. Or I'm grasping at straws here because The Wild Robot I know has already stolen everybody's heart. I don't know. I've talked about this last time as well. I didn't love that film. It's a good film. I just didn't love it. I want something else to come along and blow us away, but I get it. It's probably not going to happen. But until that happens, until Lord of the Rings shows that it's not, I'm keeping it in there. And because of that, yeah, I gotta leave Inside Out 2 off my predictions because, I mean, look at all these other ones. Are you gonna leave Memoir of a Snail out? Are you gonna leave Flow out? Are you gonna leave Wallace and Gromit out? Are you gonna leave Moana 2 out? You have so many options to choose from. And again, Moana 2 maybe also could fall in the same vein that Inside Out 2 has, where it comes out, people say it's good, but it's just nowhere near as good as the first one, and so we're kind of underwhelmed by it. The counter argument to that is like, it's the highest grossing film of the year, so fuck what we say. People went to go see it probably twice, so it just gets in based on that alone. But what are you gonna take out? Lord of the Rings, I get it. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that yet. So that's what I got for you there. Animated short film, kind of retightened it a little bit more. Was taking a look at some of the Oscar qualifying films that have been going on at some of the festivals, kind of reading the synopsis to it. I'm still feeling pretty good about The Car That Came Back from the Sea. Beautiful Men has constantly been showing up, so I'm very happy. That one's like been on my list from the very beginning. Maybe I should move it back up to number 1. I should just throw all my chips on that one. It's the one that's lasted the longest. Percebus is on there. I put The Brown Dog back on there just because of the star power alone, though that doesn't always lead to a nomination, so I'm always cautious with those type of things. And then Au revoir mon monde. I actually thought about including this last month, but I wasn't 100% sure if the Oscars would go for something so silly. If you haven't seen the trailer yet, it's like this guy in like is it a fish costume? Yeah, I believe it's a fish costume. It's like the end of the world. He's running all over the place. And, you know, it's been showing up here and there. So I feel there's a trajectory for it to get nominated. So that's what I got for you there. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I might tighten it up a little bit more because there are a couple of other ones that I haven't fully got a chance to see the trailers. And we'll see. Documentary has remained the exact same. I think some people are really trying to push the Superman Christopher Reeve movie on here, but that is like prime Oscar documentary curse food fodder, if you will. Like, that's the one that you put in there because you're like, yes, that one's definitely got to get in. And then come Oscar morning, or heck, even the short list, you're like, no, what happened? You know what happened? The curse happened. How dare you pretend the curse doesn't exist anymore? What's wrong with you? So yeah, not including that. I did put The Remarkable Life of Evelyn on here just because, again, gamer, I like hearing stories about gamers, and because the film has been getting another nice push recently. I'm not 100% confident it's going to get in. Again, I think video games is still a niche topic for the Oscars, though I think the door has definitely been opening a little bit more each and every year. So would love to see that get in. Not 100% confident, but I'm going to include for now. Documentary short film. I'm still including The Final Copy of Jon Specht on here because that just seems like a documentary short nominee, but I really haven't been seeing it much of anywhere. So I probably should drop it down and heck, maybe even think about replacing it, but just something inside is telling me, no, this is the Academy's thing. Keep it in there. We'll see how the following months play out. Michaela's Voice, however, has been showing up at a lot of festivals, and I think this one's probably going to be a done deal. The Only Girl in the Orchestra. This one I actually have been seeing a lot more, and the name is so unique that it actually stuck out to me. So whenever I see it, I'm like, oh, there it is again. There it is again. So yeah, I think to the point I got to include it now. I Am Ready, Warden, and All Things Metal are kind of like my picks that I do see them show up here and there, but I'm not 100% confident in them getting in. But the other things that I had on here, just they haven't shown up at all. Like, I haven't seen them once. to the point that I'm like, no, I gotta let go of that pipe dream. At least with the final copy of Yon Spec, I at least saw once or twice. So yeah, the other ones just kind of nobody's talking about them. So gotta play it smart here, gotta drop them, and we'll see. I think this one still needs a little bit more finagling. We'll see what happens next. International feature film, once again, really hasn't changed all that much. Still got Emilia Perez, still got Seed of the Sacred Fig, still got I'm Still Here. I included universal language. I like the synopsis behind it. It actually makes it seem rather interesting. So I'm keeping an eye on that one, though again, I'm not 100% confident it's fully gonna get in. And then Kneecap, I wanted to get in because it's a very fun movie, and it's the type of movie I don't think you see get into the Oscars all that often, so that's even more reason I want to push it. Again, Wild Swings, but I do have to admit, there has been a lot more hype on some of the other films. The one from Italy, which, I can never freaking pronounce, I think that one is also getting a really good push, so I'm kind of on the cusp of swapping it, but no, I want to keep Kneecap on there for now. Again, I gotta have those picks that not a lot of people are fully confident in because I like surprises and I want to be right if there's a surprise. Original score, The Brutalist. I think that one is just gearing up to take the win. Dune Part 2, we just found out, is not eligible for the Oscar nomination, though Denis has said that it doesn't matter, he's going to still push for it to get nominated. What does that mean? I don't really understand that at all, but who knows? If you still want to include it, I guess maybe he's gonna do something or to really get it considered. But if the Oscars say it doesn't qualify, I can't include it on my predictions. So there you go. Conclave, bombastic score. I really like the score there. It's a bit overpowering at points throughout the film. In fact, it's like the one thing is the weirdest thing. Like, the one big thing I really didn't like is how overpowering the score was throughout the entire goddamn film, even though I really liked the score. There are times where it's like playing, I'm like, dude, guys, chill out. We don't need the score here. So, there's, I don't know, that's one of those weird things. Challengers, I really do think could get in. In fact, and now that Dune's gone, I'm feeling even more confident that there's going to be room for more things to get in here and surprise us. So, including challenges on here, including Emilia Perez on here, and I'm going to include the Wall Robot, which I know is kind of a stab at me because I'm like trying to push for Lord of the Rings. But if the Wall Robot's also getting into score, shouldn't I have that at number 1 in an animated feature film? I don't know. I'm confused. Leave me alone, okay? Moving on. Original song. Say it with me, guys. Really hasn't changed. The Journey from 688. This is Diane Warren. She gets in it every single year, so yeah, it's gonna happen. Emilia Perez for El Mal. Honestly, I could just see 2 Emilia Perez songs getting in, and I probably would just knock out either Like a Bird from Sing Sing or We're Back from Moana 2. I wanted to include a Moana 2 song just because the first movie had some very catchy songs. It'd be pretty weird for this one to just not have any catchy songs, so I had to include something. I'm not saying this is definitely the one that is going to be the catchiest, but I gotta include something. But we'll see. Again, the Miller Press could just get another one, and you'd have to kick one of these other ones out, so we'll see what happens there. Sound, Dune Part 2, Emilia Perez, Gladiator 2, Wicked. This is another one I really do think Furiosa could get into. It's cars, revving engines. It's the popular thing that the Oscar, that branch I should say, really likes to vote for. So this could potentially be its lone nomination if it really doesn't get in anywhere else. So again, just please give it something. That movie deserves at least something. Finishing things off with the last 2 categories, starting off with live action short film. Amplified, Anuja, I still have on here. Dovecote, Deck 5B, Corpse Fishing, I included. I am struggling with some of these. I mean, the synopsis to all of them sound very good. There's just nothing in here that's been really making me think, oh my god, that sounds amazing. That one's definitely going to get in. The top 2 I still feel the most confident in, but we'll see how the rest of the months play out. But that's just kind of what I've got for now. Visual effects, really the only thing that's changed here is I included Better Man at number 5. I took out Mufasa, included Wicked. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, visual effects for the longest time, I thought, well, this is your top 5. This really isn't going to change. But the more I saw people doing predictions and saying, no, this could be a surprise, made me really kind of have to break out of my shell here and start to consider other opinions. A Better Man, for instance, I saw the trailer, I'm like, oh yeah, of course, that just seems like something that's going to get into visual effects. Gladiator 2, it kind of had the same rumblings to me that Mank did, or some of these high profile Oscar films that have the visual effects, but I mean, you see it and you're like, that was it, that's what's getting the push for the Oscars. But the reviews that have come out lately have called the visual effects obviously not 100% believable. I mean, it's just the type of thing that comes with it, but enough there that you could really see it get nominated. And as Gladiator 2, I think, is going to be a contender in a lot of texts, I think it's just going to be a very easy spot to fill here. I don't think it's a guarantee yet. I get it's at my number 3. I probably should put it at number 4. But I think it could come along with its package of tech categories. So we'll see. We'll see. That's what I got for you for this month. Anyways, you guys, that's all I got for November. We're getting closer to the Oscar season. We got a lot of the critics nominations starting to go up. December is definitely going to be the big one where you kind of see what their mindset is going into. And then we've got to think about Golden Globes. We got to think about the other awards festivals to really cement what we have going on. But of course, we got to finish watching the films first, which December should hopefully wrap things up with. I'm hoping to see a lot more stuff by the time I do my next predictions. And yeah, that's kind of all I got for you guys. I do think there's a lot more wiggle room in terms of things surprising, in terms of things disappointing. And of course, even when you think you have a full picture, Oscar nomination morning happens and all of a sudden you're like, wow, where did that come from? So you got to have those. Otherwise, this is just boring. It's boring. Who wants to be bored? Not me. Anyways, until next month, everybody, like always, stay safe out there and have a good one.